Soul Scripts presents Conversations with Your Higher Self. Hi, I'm Alleson Gregary, and today we have Xristina Thevaos. And Xristina is a spiritual growth facilitator. She runs a homeopathic telemedicine clinic. She works with people who are interested in taking radical self-responsibility for themselves and who are walking the path of spiritual sovereignty. Her highest calling is to bring in and help activate the new earth consciousness within us all. Hello, Xristina. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me, Alleson.
You bet. It's so great to get to know you via this platform with everyone else. So tell us a little bit about your road that led to where you are now.
Oh, wow. So I had my first prophetic dream when I was 12.
Wow.
I dreamed I started my period. And the next morning, I go to the bathroom, I look in my underwear, and it was the exact same thing I had seen in my dream. Like, same pattern, everything. I was like,
wow.
Whoa. My aunts and my great aunts and my mom were, really, I'll say in tune, like they got a lot of messages. They knew things. And so, my mom would always, she'd know, like everything. If I was like getting into trouble, she was like right there, like catching me.
Oh, that must have been great for a child, right?
Oh man, like ninth grade, I'm like going out with this boy in 11th grade, and she's like, no car dates. And of course I let him take me home from school, and she's there on the porch waiting for me.
Oh no.
So then when I was 18, I was at a youth group camp, like through the Episcopal Church. And I was going to sneak and smoke a cigarette on the path down to the water. And it was raining and I had my raincoat on, and I squatted down and I light the cigarette, and a raindrop falls off the edge of the hood and knocks the cherry off the end of the cigarette. I'm like, okay. So then I light it again, of course, determined I'm going to smoke this damn cigarette. And two raindrops fall right in the middle on the same spot and break it in half. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. Now, until that point, I had really been questioning God, because I grew up in a Greek Orthodox church, and there was no... for me, no connection between what they were saying and God. And so having this, I was like, okay, something is definitely out there. And so that kind of started me, like a compass that led me through my 20s. And as I got into my 30s, like my intuition really just bumped up. I started having kids at 29, and, I just really began to rely on that guidance, the subtle messages, the subtle signs from here and there. And it just, got stronger and stronger throughout the years. And I had started trying to do energy work, because I realized that, there was some power coming through my hands back in my 20s, and had gone through my Reiki attunements like 22 years ago. Like first and second degree, but I didn't really do much with it. So around 2019, I started really getting interested in energy work again. And I had been practicing and studying homeopathy since 2004. Wow. And sorry, I'm going the long way because it's all relevant here.
No, that's fine.
I love homeopathy. I love homeopathy. It's super incredibly important on our ascension path and just for life in general. Super, super restorative and mind opening, soul expanding medicine. But it's like a dinosaur medicine, like it's like Fred Flintstone and you're trying to be in the Jetsons age. There's a lot of work that the practitioner has to do to come to discover remedy that will help you. So I pondering how can homeopathy be more efficient? How can I start using my energy work again? I'm really feeling the call, and because my intuition, is getting stronger, like I'm feeling all this stuff coming in. And I'm like, wait a second, what if, just like Reiki, we can transmit the vibration and frequency of an energy of a remedy to somebody with just our intention, like working in the quantum field. So I went to a Reiki share. I was like, okay, it's time to get back into Reiki. And a master level practitioner who had been in the field since 79 gets on the table. And I'm like, oh, she's going to know. She'll know. She knows what Reiki feels like versus anything else. So I'm like, can I try to transmit this other frequency, this thing I've been playing with, to you while you're on the table? And she's like, yeah, sure. I mean, this woman's freaking awesome. She's open to anything. So I did. And she gets off the table. She sits up and she's like, what did you do? Tell me all about it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it worked.
So what did you do? What were you transmitting to her exactly?
Okay. So, in homeopathy, you're trained to look for patterns, emotional triggers, and, tendencies in a person. You're scanning everything, and not in a judgmental way, but just to kind of summarize, for quick prescribing. Like I like to be able to get to the point where I see somebody, I talk to them for a few minutes, and I can pretty much nail like some remedies that'll be super helpful for them for their next stages of growth and whatever they're dealing with right now. So doing that, but also like I realized I was feeling stuff, and I would kind of send the frequency to test. And if it resonated, the body would accept it. If it didn't resonate, the body didn't do anything with it, just like a homeopathic remedy. Like when you take a remedy, if it's not the right remedy, nothing happens. But when it's in resonance, then you get a shift for the, in a healing and towards healing.
That's fascinating. Have you ever heard of the device called the Healy? It's a frequency. I mean, like on there, they have like, you can transmit flower essence and I don't know, all sorts of other things, which sounds like basically you're a human Healy. You can just send that to people. That's really cool.
Yeah, I started experimenting with all kinds of other frequencies. Like, let's say somebody had gotten a bunch of x-rays, or somebody had taken a medication like Tylenol or prednisone or something that had left kind of like a resonance. Because see, that's another thing I realized, that I could see when they had blockages that were medicine induced, because in my homeopathic practice, I was highly trained to look for that and to then treat it, with like an antidote homeopathic remedy. So a remedy made from the offending substance.
Interesting. So for those who don't know homeopathy, how would you describe it in a nutshell?
It's like the opposite of conventional medicine. So a conventional medicine is going to give you a moderate sized dose of a generic medicine to turn off and suppress your symptoms. And moderate doses have side effects. But in homeopathy, we're going to look for a specific medicine that covers your specific symptoms, but give it in such a minute dose that it triggers a healing response in the body with no side effects.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a complete system of medicine that's not very well known in the United States, but in other areas of the world, it's recognized even by the governments.
Yeah, we're so behind when it comes to medicine, aren't we? I mean, it's basically just put a Band-Aid on it, prescribe a pill, send people on their way, instead of getting to the root of the cause and how to heal it from that point. So talk a little bit more about what got you on this road to this type of medicine and this type of healing, and what kind of share some real life examples of some really cool things that you've seen come through as you've been practicing.
Sure. Around 1997, when I was with my first husband, I started, like, the internet was just, I was just getting access to the internet. And I started learning about like how bad, vaccines were, how bad medicines were, microwaves, I was learning about sacred geometry and studying all kinds of different religions. And, just that was kind of the beginning of like, really like, okay, I'm ready to like do things different than those people that I've been growing up with, because I feel very limited by all this. And there's other answers out there. You know, there's more to the story here. I threw away my microwave. I stopped taking any conventional medicines. I, you know, just started cleaning up my life. I stopped drinking tap water. But I was looking, searching desperately for some kind of alternative medicine. I was like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something. So, you know, fast forward to 2004, I meet my second husband, who's a homeopathic practitioner. And he starts telling me about homeopathy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the magic bullet I've been looking for. And so I came with, let me see, which is the best story to share? I mean, I had a lot of, like, I was really sensitive. I am really sensitive. But during my stay with my second husband,
that's a generous way to put it.
My health just plummeted, and even though I was in homeopathic medicine and I was getting massive improvements mentally and emotionally, I developed massive food allergies and multiple chemical sensitivities. So there was still something out of alignment in my life, you know, and I'll tell you what happened later. But from my first husband, he smoked pot every day. And I had already discovered that pot and I just didn't get along. You know, it just threw me into the depths of almost like mental illness, brain fog. Like I couldn't, like by the end of the 8.5 years we were together, I couldn't follow to the end of a conversation. Like I just felt like a non-functioning person. You know, it was like, I was seriously wondering how I was even going to work and support myself, because I couldn't just do the things you do just to, like, you know, have a conversation, have, you know, like just normal processing. So coming into homeopathy, my second husband treated me for the long-term effects of marijuana with a potentized form of cannabis. Now, in potency, there's no molecules of the original substance left. But what happened when I took that first dose was the fog cleared. It literally was like Moses parting the waters. And I got my mental functioning back. In fact, with prolonged treatment, if I never was tested, but I swear to you, I gained IQ points.
So how does that work? I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me that you just take a little bit of the thing that's causing the problem and it clears it up.
It is. Well, we have an innate healing response in our body to get better. That's why we can heal from a burn or a bug bite or a cold or a broken bone. But sometimes along the way, there is a disharmonic energy that comes in that our body's not able to recover from. So like you see diseases that run in the family, like an emotional tendencies. Okay, so all of this is connected to our emotional stuff, and I'll weave that in too. And as we aren't able, like as we have these tendencies and these things that we're carrying with us, our body gets distorted because our body and mind's connected. They're one entity. Okay, we are like a whole symbiotic system. We can't just say, okay, I broke a bone, I'm going to the bone doctor. I have a heart condition, I'm going to the heart doctor. And oh, it's just my heart, that's all it is. No, you've probably got some massive grief, you know, and other things going on that, you know, are causing this, that, you know, these root emotional causes. So that's why, you know, like doing ancestral work is so important and digging into our emotional health. Anyway, I digress. Because the body has this innate self-reparative mechanism. All it needs is like a little bit of stimulation to send it back in the right direction. So what you can do, let's say you've got some deep grief, you know, from like a spouse or loved one dying, you know, you can spend 20 years in therapy digging and digging and digging. Or you can take a specific homeopathic remedy and it frees up this energetic binding in the body so that you can process this emotion in a more timely fashion. So it doesn't do the work for you, but it like gives you the right signal so that you can move forward in rapid time.
Wow. Is that kind of akin to what seems to be growing in popularity, which is the microdosing, like the mushroom microdosing? Is that kind of along the same lines, or is that completely different?
Yeah, I mean, it is sort of, you know, even in homeopathy, we go even more dilute. And not just dilution, but there's an action of succussion. And so succussion is the agitation of the water molecules along with the molecules of the substance that you're making to a homeopathic remedy. So let's say you're taking belladonna or you're taking arsenic and you're turning this into a potentized remedy. As the water molecules agitate up against the molecules of arsenic, the water molecules imprint the electromagnetic signature onto the water. So, because, you know, water has a negative charge. And if you're familiar with the work of Masaru Emoto and the memory of water and how you can like speak loving words or negative words onto water and then they'll freeze it. And the ones that you speak loving words onto they form crystals, beautiful, like snowflake-like crystals that have, you know, nice form and shape. And when you speak the negative words onto them, they're deformed and broken. So we know that water can take on this imprinting. So the agitation or the succussion imprints the energy. The dilution gets rid of the original substance, and then you're left with an electromagnetic remedy.
And then that would cure you if you were subjected to high amounts of arsenic. Is that what you're saying? Wow.
Yeah, they've even done scientific studies.
Blows my mind. That's wild.
It's fascinating science. And energy, you know, it's so much more than just science. True.
So is this something that people can use with their pets as well? And do you work with pets?
I do. I work with pets, children, you know, adults, elderly, plants. Wow. You know, you can't claim placebo when you treat pets, children, and plants. You know,
that's so interesting. There's this, I raise monarch butterflies. And it's just a new hobby that I've gotten into, and just found out I live in the monarch butterfly city, you know, just north of Tampa. And there's this disease that's going around, a bacteria that affixes to the caterpillar or even the egg at some point and causes these monarchs not to fully develop. Sometimes they'll develop without wings or develop without the ability to fly. And I guess it's highly contagious. Just for fun, is that something that you would be able to work with as well? And how would you even go about that with an insect?
Well, homeopathy is a phenomenological medicine. So what does that mean? It means that you're looking for what's present and what you can observe. So it's not just relying on what somebody's telling you about how their subjective experiences are, but you're also looking for patterns. You're looking for signs and other things that are a little bit more like pale skin, glassy eyes, you know, like dryness of the skin. In addition to, I have a sharp pain and it's located right here. Like I'm having, you know, these intense episodes of grief where I cry all the time and they come between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. You know, I haven't pooped in 5 days. I mean, like all these things add up, and we take this list of symptoms and we match it to a remedy that can cause that same group of symptoms. So even in plants, in insects, you can still see patterns. And so that's how you match and find a remedy that'll help.
So what you do, you really have to heavily rely on intuition as well, I suspect.
Yeah. Yes. That's why a lot of people call it an art and a science.
Wow. That's fascinating. So where do you see medicine going like 20 years from now? Do you have any sort of a vision in mind for what that might look like?
Well, it's really interesting because there are so many people opening up to the idea that, our emotional states are the things we're being exposed to are causing our symptoms and we're making ourselves sick. And so with the huge amount of people waking up, the huge amount of people doing energy work, all these different natural forms of medicine, I really see as we're kind of shifting into a more do-it-yourself, a more take responsibility, a more, less reliant on the government and the things that we can get from, big pharma. I think people are really turning more natural. I mean, this has been a tendency for a long time. Like, really, the energy medicine that people are bringing today is so potent. Like, even in my practice with my energy work and the spiritual growth counseling, like, just without homeopathic remedies, but just with the work I do, like, we've gotten rid of migraines, gallstone colics, like one that was stuck for 2 weeks, like all kinds of body pains and aches. I mean, there's med beds. A lot of people have been hearing about med beds, and all these other technologies that are coming in from, galactic beings that people are channeling the information. And medicine is unstoppable. Like, our healing, if we want it, it's unstoppable.
And then
that's,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. That's what I'm saying. That's the radical self-responsibility. Like, if you want something bad enough, you're going to find a way, and it's going to come to you. Like, spirit always provides.
Well, Joe Dispenza comes to mind, with the way he healed himself. That would be my vision for the future, that we're able to, heal ourselves at the mind, body, spiritual, soul level, ancestral level, all of that ourselves at some point with maybe just a little bit of this or that,
Definitely. So this is a great time to come back to the 15-year stay with my ex-husband and the food allergies and multiple chemical sensitivity and electrohypersensitivity. So we tried for 15 years with homeopathy and to cure this, and nothing was helping. Like I said, I had improvements on all kinds of stuff, with my bowels, with my digestion, with my period pain, chronic headaches, massive emotional stuff, that I was dealing with. But that didn't give. And so, and I was too sensitive at that time to even take like nutraceuticals and most herbs. So finally, as I was starting to realize, like, this life wasn't working for me anymore, I'm expanding. Like, I'm so much more aware of like the nature of what we are and who we are, and he wasn't ready to go there. So as I started getting ready to leave, I felt like I was getting stronger. I move out in April of 2020. And I'm like, I'm going to try XYZ food. Let's just see what happens. Because the last time I had this, I had 3 hours of diarrhea.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I tried it. Nothing happened. I was like, let me try something else. Nothing happened. So, and I even got a smartphone. I wouldn't have been able to do that before. And I had some issues with it at first, but that even went away. So this oppression of my emotional state and my feeling like I could express myself, my feelings of victimization in the relationship, in the situation, were making me sick as hell.
Oh my gosh.
And until I addressed that, it didn't matter what homeopathic remedy I took or what I did. I wasn't going to get better.
That speaks volumes to what probably a lot of people are going through right now.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, Christina, while you were talking, I had a thought too. You know how some relationships, maybe the spouse gets the jab and the other spouse is against it and doesn't. And then I hear a family members getting together with other family members who some had the jab, some did not. And they're feeling effects from this jab, even though they didn't get it, just from being around that person physically. From a homeopathic standpoint, what is causing that and what is bringing that on?
So when Samuel Hahnemann first started mulling over his ideas that led to his developing homeopathy, he was a doctor in the mid 1700s. And so like late 1700s, early 1800s is when homeopathy started forming. He made the observation that disease and what we call viruses were contagious when we had a similar resonance to the person that we were being exposed to. If our vibration and level of health was high enough, the disease couldn't resonate into our energy and couldn't affect us and make us sick. It couldn't implant its resonance onto us.
Oh.
So yeah, this is really, really profound. So when we get sick from a contagion, it's because we have had some kind of, maybe we're under stress, maybe we're in victim consciousness, maybe we're just depleted in some way. There's something that causes us in our emotional fields, in our whole beings, to be in resonance and to be susceptible to take on that vibration. When we're not susceptible because our vibration's high, we're feeling good, we're doing our emotional work, we don't get sick so much. And when we do, it's always an invitation to say, okay, what do I need to process now? Like I've had some throat stuff going on for the last month, an entire month. And what's been coming through is like, I haven't been speaking my truth enough, especially in personal relationships. And I was like, oh, okay. And, so that's been, for me to be working on lately. And that's, it's, oh, well, you're just fooling yourself. You've got some kind of cold or, allergies or something, but why are you susceptible to that? There's always a deeper reason.
Interesting. So,
but homeopathy can help when, because we can't all be perfect, right? None of us are freaking perfect.
It'd be boring if we were.
Yeah. We get sick. We get under stress. Life can kick our asses sometimes. And so homeopathy has been super effective at helping deal with those symptoms on all levels, no matter what you're being affected by. It's extremely effective in post-vaccination injury, like long-term effects of drug injuries, and those kinds of conditions. So yeah, it's definitely a really good tool to have and to use.
So if somebody of a very high vibration got the jab, could they potentially have no side effects whatsoever and carry any of that gunk with them going forward?
They could potentially. And they also may be lucky enough to get one of the vials that's just saline.
Yeah.
As anybody could.
Yeah. Russian roulette,
I really have come to understand that the decision is really got to be on a soul level. We all have lessons that we're coming here to learn. We have the people that come into our lives, the situations that happen to us, the accidents, the injuries. These are all designed to bring us to the place where we are in the situation to learn a lesson that our soul wanted to learn. And this is not the negative, oh, she learned her lesson. This is, what does my soul want to do as its next phase of evolution? And how can I take that and use it to my advantage?
So true. So true. Now, in your line of work, and you kind of touched on this earlier, somebody just can't come to you and go, Xristina, give me the magic pill, and then not do any of the work and just flit along and just keep continuing being how they are. What do you do if you get a client that's kind of like, oh, I just give me the pill to help me out, and then not really wanting to put the effort in?
Well, I mean, the nice thing about homeopathy is, okay, I said that, my food allergies didn't get better, for example, but other things did. When somebody doesn't believe in homeopathy, even if they don't believe, like, belief doesn't mean that you're not going to get some improvements. It doesn't work on beliefs, but you can go so much further and get to much deeper levels if you put in a little bit of work, on your spiritual, emotional self too. The clients that are more motivated, in like, I can't live like this anymore. I'm got to make changes. Those are the ones who get really good results, like even better results. And the same, when I'm not even using homeopathy, I'm just doing the, spiritual growth counseling. I mean, it's phenomenal when people really come with the attitude of like, what am I doing? Like, where can I take more responsibility? Where can I, what do I need to do on the next step? If we get massive shifts, it's amazing. It's beautiful to be in that space with people.
Spiritual growth is so huge and so profound, because it can just shift a person's whole personality, I think. I mean, I've done the simplest of things and had huge like wake ups, like, holy shit, how did I not figure this out sooner? What are some of the things that you've seen when you're working with some of your clients along those lines of things that just change like that?
Wow. I mean, everyone talks about gratitude, but when, like, I've had a client that was really looking for love outside of herself, and she just kept bringing in like these bad partners, that really kind of abused her. And so digging into that, we just found, like, she just started blossoming. But that's not even a great example. Let me think of.
I mean, they're all great examples.
Yeah,
of course, but
some of the work has come from like the energetic, like, rebuilding of like energetic layers. Like, sometimes in our energetic field, shit gets broken, and you can't repair it anymore. You have to like let it go and build anew. It's like as we're moving into this 3D, out of the 3D earth consciousness into the 5D, there's some stuff we're not going to be able to bring with us because it's really broken. It doesn't work very well. And so the invitation is to create new. So like, I had a woman who, like, her whole field was just shattered. And when I don't even know how this happens. Like, I can't even take credit for this other than just being the channel and facilitator. Okay. So I'm just want to make that real clear. Like, when I say I did, like, it's really spirit working through me.
right.
We rebuilt her crystalline grid around her, and the shift that she went through in her susceptibility to people's energy, to the husband that was really toxic, to all those things, just profoundly, with grace, shifted for the better. She got out of the relationship. She was able to start speaking up for herself. I mean, just, stuff you wouldn't even expect. Like, breaking contracts is another huge one, and breaking bonds and obligations. We get so stuck in our actions and reactions because we feel obligated to a certain behavior, to a family dynamic, to somebody, to show up in a certain way. And a lot of those times they are old, literally, obligations that we made or contracts that we made that are outdated and need to be let go of. you're always free to create a new situation with somebody, but stepping out of that old paradigm and those things, oh man, it's just so freeing.
Do you find a lot of times some of that stuff's programmed too? Just like from the media and from ancestral lines and all of that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's information when we're susceptible. And we don't always know when we're susceptible and when we're not. And sometimes, even though we've raised our vibration, there's still a little bit of that leftover resonance in there until we bring our attention to it. And simply by saying, okay, what's still there? Spirit's going to bring in ways to show you. So I don't want you to get into panic, or anybody who's watching to get into panic, like, oh my God, how am I supposed to figure all this shit out? You ask and you always receive. So yeah, there's definitely imprints that can be put in, and overlays, like just by the cell phones and the cell phone towers and watching TV, resonances can come in. And when we're not aware that can happen, then we become susceptible. When we bring awareness, like if we're like, man, I really feel like vegging out and watching a movie, bring that awareness. I'm going to watch this movie, and I know that there's programming, but I am standing in my sovereignty. I'm standing in my space, and I bet you're going to start to see
Oh my
all
God.
the little
Yes.
places. It's yeah.
It's like walking around on this planet right now. Every day gets more and more surreal. It's like, do they really, flip through Netflix, can they really get away with that shit? I can see exactly what they're doing.
Yes.
Or this or that, or the government, what have you. It's just becoming like so in your face.
It is and it can be really scary, when we start waking up and seeing all these conspiracies, all these things that are trying to hold us back, because when we haven't stepped out of, I'm the victim, they're doing this to me, this is bad, there's dark and there's light, and the dark is evil and it's attacking us. When we step out of that, we can step into neutrality, and everything is a tool. Like, okay, there's good stuff coming from the light and it's nourishing. There's, this darkness, and I'm going to use that to dig into where I still have shadows and let it bring out what's there. And I'm going to thank it for the lessons that it's brought me. All the dark wants is to be recognized and loved. And when we give it that,
said that.
when we give it that recognition, it totally melts and completely shifts the energy of it and brings in more light.
Because there's this weird thought out there. Okay, that was a judgment. There's this thought out there that you should just block all the negative, dark, anything, just get it away from your field, what have you. But there's beautiful lessons to be had in bringing that in and really looking at it, don't you think?
Totally. Yeah. And Spirit gave me a real big, this whole year has been just like, you're going to walk through the darkness and you're going to be okay, but it's not going to be fun. And so.
And that's collectively too, right?
It is. Excuse me. It was the biggest lessons that I brought out of it was after I just had my ass thoroughly handed to me. And a few times, when I kept going back and feeling like, I'm being victimized and like, why is this shit happening to me? And then I started catching myself. I'm like, wait a minute here. If I'm looking for sovereignty, then that means some aspect of me needed this to happen so that I could face something that I wouldn't have otherwise faced. Yep. And so 4 times this year, I faced some intense darkness. One of them is like a really interesting example, and I'll share that one. And it's a little woo-woo, and I don't care.
Oh, I love woo-woo. Bring on all the woo-woo.
So I was having a past life vision, And I had gone into the layer of a jinn. So like a jinn's like a male genie. Okay. And this was somewhere like in a desert area. Like I was getting the hit that it was Morocco, like somewhere like that. And I could not escape. It was dark. It was scary. Like I felt totally bound there. And so somebody came and rescued me. And it was somebody that I know now, actually. And he's carrying me out. And I'm like, find myself in this vision, like looking back and wanting to know, like, wait a minute. Like, why couldn't I get myself out? Well, I go back in. And I'm in there again. And I'm like, shit, I can't get out. Well, he comes and carries me back out again. Well, this time I hit it with determination. I'm like, why can't I get out? What is it in me that I'm too afraid to face? Because this is scaring the shit out of me. But why is it scaring me? Where do I feel disempowered? So I went back in and I faced the jinn. And I said, I see where you're coming from. I see how the darkness has used you too. And I see the role that you've played for the growth and development of myself and for others. And I honor that. He totally, like, it's like the whole thing dissolved. He completely shifted. And what I saw was that the resonance of this love and this respect that I was giving him shifted out into the collective of jinns and was changing their energy too.
That's so beautiful.
A couple days later, I was facing a personal situation that I was feeling like there's a bigger situation going on that I have not been able to overcome with my children. And the jinn came to me and was like, friend, how can I help?
Oh my God. You can't make this shit up. That is wild.
No. The god Loki came to me a couple months ago. And I'm like, what the hell is Loki coming for? I'm like, I didn't, it was just weird. Like I didn't ask, but he was there. And I'm like, and he's shifting and, doing all this stuff. And I'm laughing, with him. And, he's showing me all kinds of stuff. And, I'm like, you're a trickster. And I'm like, what do you want? And I said it with love, not like, what do you want, motherfucker? Sorry.
Right. Hey.
And he's like, I want an upgrade.
Wow.
I was like, why are you coming to me? He's like, because you're the one who can do it. My human mind's like blown. So, and what was interesting is like, I was like, all right, we're going to go for his heart. So I started working and doing my thing. He totally dissolved it. Didn't work. I was like, So I started working on something else. Didn't work. I was like, all right, so we're going to stop doing and we're going to stand in this divine feminine strongly. And I was like, what is it here? And so I just sat there and I saw his wounded child. And so when I worked with that, his whole energy completely shifted. So yeah, you can't do what doesn't work. You can only shift what needs to be shifted. It's beautiful. People are like, oh, somebody's going to mess me up with their energy. Well, if you take their imprint of their negative energy, I tell people, if you don't resonate with somebody, if they don't light you up and you don't feel good, then do not work with them. If you feel any way disempowered or like narcissized or like inferior or, like you are ashamed of anything, it's not a good match.
not just for working with them, but also like relationships, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. That's mind-blowing. So when you go into, like, say you're working with Loki, how does that appear for you? Do you have a vision? Are you in meditation? What's going on?
I was literally sitting outside. It was dark and I was just enjoying the evening. I was sitting and I felt him and saw him. And I was like, I asked, who is this? And, he told me, and I'm like, and that's who I thought it was, but it was good to hear him say it too. So my gifts are, of seeing, feeling, hearing. I mean,
all the
it
clairs.
was all the clairs, they all come into play. And yeah, like I feel him right now. In fact, and I hadn't felt him in a while. Like he has come, but like it's like my whole body feels like in the upper parts of my body and through my arms, like I have this tingles and warmth. So
beautiful. Now, when I first saw you, or like you came into my awareness fully, it was the other day when you were pulling some cards on Facebook Live. Do you have a deck nearby? Want to have some fun?
I do, sure.
I am an oracle card junkie, so I have like a whole cupboard full of them.
Nice.
Shall we can you do something like look towards the end of the year for the collective, like the next 2 months, or how do you like to work?
Yeah. And I'm also feeling a light language transmission wants to come through.
Oh, yes.
So maybe after we do this, or maybe it'll come through. Sometimes they just, I open my mouth and they come out. So
I love it. I love it. So beautiful.
Yeah. So, ooh. So the end of the year, I mean, that is the next 2 months. Wow. They're showing me, in fact, I'm just holding my deck here. They're actually showing me that like, it's almost like a wave. If you imagine like a water current coming through, like washing stuff away, like there's actually like kind of an energy coming in, and we've been in has been pretty dense and pretty dark, but what's filtering in is bringing in more light. And it's actually like, it feels like cool, where this other energy that had been here was almost like oppressively warm and heavy. And now what's coming in is like a lightning and like a relief of that. It's like the cool wind on your face after, like you've been standing in a sauna for a while.
Does that go hand in hand with the solar flares we've been getting? Maybe.
I mean, the solar flares have been giving us some pretty massive upgrades. Okay. And they're not always comfortable. No. Because when we're given solar flares, when the Schumann resonances go up, when these galactic energies come in, they are upgrading they're activating dormant DNA. They're giving us upgrades and things to our energetic bodies that when we are still holding density, like if the more density we hold, the less light we can hold. So when these energies come in, it's like a big invitation to purge. So where we have stuck energy, we're going to get symptoms. Like it's not uncommon to see, like headaches. I mean, I don't know. We don't need to talk about all the specific symptoms people get, but yeah, what else is coming in, guys? Okay, they said pull a card now.
I like that visual of the cool wave coming in. It just feels relieving.
It is. And it's, we're all going to experience something a little different, but there's definitely some relief, coming. And, my adrenal glands are heating up too.
Mm.
I feel a lot of us have been kind of like overstressed, overworked, like in this constant state of like, what's going to happen next? When's the hammer going to drop?
Yes.
There's a lot of people looking at the events in the world happening with, like uncertainty and fear and anger and, frustration. Like, when's this shit going to change? And how's it going to look when it changes? Or people, people are dying. Like, let's take some deep breaths. I feel it. I feel that collective anxiety and uncertainty. And I want to honor where you're at, because it's difficult to feel all this and process this, because it's not all your own. It doesn't all originate from us individually. We're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know that already,
Yeah.
we are all source. We are all individual expressions of source. Source has made all this stuff so that it can have all these experiences. And so the illusion of separation is what we go through here on earth, so that we can go through some deeper soul lessons that are kind of painful sometimes, but necessary on our soul's journey.
Mm.
And I keep coming back to this. How do we know that the suffering somebody else is going through, that the collective suffering of humanity isn't exactly what they need for their soul's journey?
Yep.
When we want to judge it or feel pity towards it or feel like we have to help, how do we know that that's, we don't know. We have no clue, like exactly the specific formula that they need to unlock and awaken themselves. Maybe it's exactly right. And when it's like when we're as parents, at some point we have to let go and let our kids make decisions.
Yep.
And let them fall on their face and let them make bad decisions and let them learn from their mistakes. Because some of us aren't just going to be satisfied with being told the fire's hot. We want to stick our whole damn hand in there.
Yeah.
And when we have that experience, then we know for sure the fire's hot. But maybe, just maybe, we don't believe it. And we run our hand through the fire and we don't get burnt.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
Why am I going to imprint my reality onto somebody when maybe they're magical as fuck and they can do things that I have limited myself into doing? I mean, there's just so many layers to this. Yeah. I can't be the judge of what's best for somebody.
Oh, and it's all so perfectly orchestrated. I mean, when you stand back and look at it, after you've been through it, it's like, wow, who created this amazing story? And look how it played out. It's just all so perfect.
Exactly. I mean, the first card that came out is awaiting results.
Oh,
was I not just saying that?
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious.
I was having a conversation with a friend the other day who's very much into what's going on right now, in the 3D sense. And he's like, when is this going to happen? When is this going to shift? And I see this and I'm laughing because it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's already happened. We're simply in the theater right now, in the middle of it, watching it play out. And where you sit is going to determine your vantage point. Yes. Are you sitting right up close to the screen? Are you like in the place where they're throwing tomatoes and rotten eggs? And you're getting hammered from all sides? Yeah. Are you outside watching it and you're like, okay, I see that, but I'm going to go about doing my stuff, bringing in this new consciousness?
And observe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So always go back and check, where am I right now? Am I able to just look at this life and what I'm seeing through my human eyes and just observe without judgment?
Mm.
Or am I really caught up in the middle of it? And let that be your gauge.
Perfect.
They want me to pull. I'm going to use a different deck now. Oh, popped out. Oh. Expanding consciousness and awareness.
Yes.
We are in such a massively growth-filled time right now. Like the consciousness, like this nothingness, this space is almost unfathomable. It's like being held, but being in nothing at the same time.
Mm.
You know, there's, and what do you feel like from that?
Oh, I totally feel it. And I feel like I'm just floating above the surface. That it's not neither real or unreal, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very it's a neat space, but so surreal.
It is. It is. And I feel like going forward into these next 2 months, what they're showing me is that the opportunity to be in that space more is here.
Mm.
You know, we are expanding as a collective and as individuals, but of course, you know, we're part of the collective, but all the work that we're doing affects the collective whether we want it to or not.
Right.
You know, you don't have to go into your self-work and like, oh, I'm doing this for my children, I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing this for my ancestors. Do it for you. Do
It's
it for
the
you.
butterfly effect.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Yeah, they're saying the veils are thin right now, and they're going to continue to be throughout the rest of 2021. And there's interesting, there's some kind of like into 2022, they're literally showing me like a shift. And like they're showing me something that turns like upside down.
Hmm.
It's almost like a bigger awakening, or yeah, it's very interesting. Like I've never seen that before. So it feels brighter, less dense.
Mm.
There's two factions, there's two camps. Okay, there's the group that's really feeling like the lightness of it. Of course, there's the midline, but then there's some that are really feeling the heaviness and the stress.
Mm.
And so you get to choose. Am I, you know, where am I here? You know, your best friend might not be where you are, and that's okay. It's painful sometimes to let go of things that don't serve our highest vibration. Sometimes, you know, it can be really painful. I've seen so many relationships breaking up, and, you know, people not speaking to their family and friends anymore, that, you know, leaving their jobs and things because they're just not in alignment.
Yeah.
You know, what we feed ourselves with spiritually, emotionally, physically affects everything that we do.
So totally does. And people exiting the planet too, in mass.
Yeah. There's a lot of soul contracts coming up right now. And see the lights are flickering.
Yep. I was like, what's going on over there? So any light language for us that you could share?
They're saying this is the anchor in a higher frequency for us to get through these seemingly dark times. It's on our road of ascension. The path can be kind of rocky and rough sometimes, but take heed. They can be really colloquial sometimes. They're like, it's all good in the end. Sorry, my guys have a real sense of humor.
That's awesome.
So tsuto o mai titi titimbo tsutimba titse tanda eti. Tigata ai na ai tsutumba ai santa ai tambata. They feel your collective grief. They honor where you're at. Sabotu mo ta ta ti ta. Sati ta ta. Ya na ai tsikatata. They ask that you, if you can say that again. So nuance in the way they're saying it. They ask if you can let go of that grief and see the way things are changing, shifting for the good. It's like this wave of energy coming that, purification, kind of like a purification, but that everything that's happening is meant to be. Riding this wave, like we're all going where we're supposed to go. There's no wrong decisions. There's no wrong answers here. If you feel guided to do something, do it. If somebody else doesn't, that's what's true for them. That's what they need. And they're showing me people like shouldering, like almost like rowing, but like rowing like with their arms and shoulders, like with their arms bent. They're saying it's felt like a treadmill for a lot of people. And that we're about to get off that and be on the rowboat of safety, like where we can get out of that boat, like by ourselves and into this one that's like carrying us for a while.
It's so beautiful.
And in the distance is a huge ship. Now we're talking about a ship on the ocean, like a big steamliner, not a spaceship.
Oh darn.
but that's what they're showing me, because this is, following the energy of water and emotions, because, water and emotions are coming up right now. They're really high for people. But yeah, I mean, we're on our way there, guys. We're on our way to a bigger net of safety and where we can just relax and be more secure.
That is so perfect. So beautiful.
They said it might look a little worse before it at times. And so it's easy to, it can be easy to get discouraged, but don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you from going forward from what you know is true. Okay, now they're giving me the end of transmission.
Oh, how beautiful. That was great. And I don't know, is it too cold for bugs up there? Because if not, there's a little orb that flew through halfway through your transmission.
I haven't seen any bugs in here, but there have been some little fruit flies.
This was big, and it would have been right in your line of sight. I'm pretty sure of it. I can't wait to go back and look.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that. That's great.
Exciting. That's exciting. Your energy is so beautiful, Xristina. So beautiful. You just are such a beacon of light. Thank you. And I appreciate having you on. And I am going to post all your information below. So anybody that wants to get in touch with Xristina for her many amazing services, please just look below this video. Thank you. And I just want to say, like, the word that comes to me, like, your energy is so pleasant. Oh, thank you. It's like, yeah, it feels good, pleasant. I like that. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm grateful you could join us today. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. Bye-bye, my dear. Bye.